this whole business of controlling is something that has great potential for creating confusion, because it very easily sounds as if we're using controlling and we're making it as a bad word, that we're making it into a bad word, and then we catch ourselves controlling, and that's not good. So then we try not to control so much, which is a very tangled web to get caught up in. But really, as always, what we're talking about is controlling as applied to our mental state. So being in the world, we have to control. If we don't control, then we won't be in the world much longer. Controlling it's something that we absolutely have to do. And it's not that controlling is indicative of an unenlightened state of mind or anything like that. But when we control our state, when we control how we are in ourselves, our state of mind, then what happens is we're playing a game. And the reason we're playing a game is because we can't really control our state of mind any more than we can really change our state of mind, which is, of course, the same thing. So our trick, going back to the idea of what is this trick, what is our main trick that we rely on so heavily? So we could say that our main trick is to control, or try to control, our state of mind. And this is no real great revelation, because inasmuch as I am trying to feel good and trying not to feel bad, that's me trying to change my state of mind, or control my state of mind, obviously. And it's very clearly the case that that's what we do all day. We get up in the morning and straight away my first thought is, how can I feel a bit better? Maybe I don't feel so great, what can I do to feel better? Or maybe I feel okay, but I'd still like to feel better. Or maybe I'm feeling bad and I don't want to feel so bad, so maybe there's something I can do to cheer myself up a little bit, or relieve myself from whatever. So it's easy to say that there is very good justification in saying trying to control our state of mind is our number one gain in life. And it's such an all-consuming game that we're doing it even when we don't think we're doing it. So, to use a good topic, a topic much beloved by Anthony de Mello, is this thing called falling in love, or love, which we celebrate endlessly. And what Anthony de Mello says is, well, this isn't really all that it's cracked up to be, or all that we think it is, because we imagine the state of love, or having fallen in love, as a sublimely selfless state, because our attention is on the beloved other. So we're not being selfish, so that must be good. So of course what Tony de Mello points out is that what we are concerned with really is the good feeling we get from being with the person that we love, or from being in love, because that makes us feel really, really good. So even this is really just part of the game of the trick of controlling how we feel, controlling our state of mind. And so that goes for relationships across the board pretty much. It's good to have relationships, it's good to relate to people, and that seems to be pretty much above board. But very often in relationships, we're trying to feel good as a result of having them. Like in one way you could say, well, I'm trying to feel good by having lots of Facebook friends. But in a more subtle way, and long before Facebook was invented, we use social situations and social groupings in order to jockey for status, or as a game basically. And when we do well in the game we feel good, and when we do badly in the game we feel really crappy. So here again, not only relationships between me and you, or in that sense of relationships, but also the whole social organisation itself, society or groups of people, exists as a means of playing games, a means of changing how we feel. So that probably shouldn't come as much of a surprise to learn that society is a game, or that it's a collection of games, but because we're always saying that, we're always talking about games and people playing games, and so even though we're always talking about it, maybe we don't quite believe it at the same time. But it's true. Our love of inclusion in any sort of a social group, big or small, although on the face of it is portrayed, or I might see it as being altruistic, in that I'm all about the group or the tribe, the bigger picture, it isn't, because what I'm really caring about is how that makes me feel. So being part of that big group and being able to say, yeah, the group is good, instead of I'm good, I'm great, the group is great. It kind of validates that trick. So the crude form of the trick is for me to say, yeah, I'm great. And as soon as I say that, there's this boost, because I've just said that I'm great, and I'm quick enough to believe what I just said. Why wouldn't I, after all? So that's a crude version of it. Kind of like a basic self-affirmation we do. And then there's all the subtler kind of forms of it. But it all comes down to the same things, the ego affirming itself. So nationalism, group identity, all of it comes down to our way of changing how we feel, our way of trying to feel good. So this is a very fundamental game. It's our trick, as I was saying. So if we can see this, that's really helpful, because straight away we can know what the trick isn't, or what the giving up of this trick would entail. And the giving up of this trick, very clearly by backwards logic, entails not trying to control my mental state. So in other words, however it happens that I feel, that's how I feel. And what that really comes down to is consciously living my life as if I'm actually interested in it. Because my life isn't primarily about self-affirmation or trying to feel good, for no other reason than I like feeling good and don't like feeling bad. If I was genuinely interested in my life, and we all say that we're interested, we probably would if we were asked, then I wouldn't try and control my mental state. Because that way, if I'm controlling my mental state the whole time, I never get to feel or perceive how I actually am. I just buy into the lie the whole time, or at least I buy into the lie for as long as I'm able to buy into the lie, which who knows how long that could be for. So really what that shows is the trick means that I'm not really interested in my life as it actually is. Absolutely, if I was interested, I would let things happen as they're going to happen so I can see what's really going on, instead of being caught in this trap of only seeing what I want to see. And in a very simple and essential way, we can do that just by noticing how we feel, without trying to control how we feel. So when expressed like that, it's really simple, but complications, of course, creep in very quickly because it's automatic to control, and I can't stop that controlling without trying to control it, which is the tangle I was talking about earlier. So how do I escape from that? How do I get to feel what it feels like to be me and experience my life as it is actually unfolding outside of my control? And in one way this can be awfully complicated, but at the same time it's very simple. It's simple and complicated at the same time. The simple side of it is that if I pay attention, I will be able to stay tuned into my own inner state. So if a painful inner state comes along, I can stay tuned into it to a certain extent. Now, more than likely, I'm going to have some kind of defense mechanism, some kind of coping strategy, some sort of comfort zone that will kick in. But that's okay, because all I have to do is notice that. And once I notice it, the power of that mechanism is taken away. Because the mechanism only works when I don't see the mechanism working. It works in darkness. If there's any light at all there to expose the trickery that's going on, then it really doesn't work at all. So, in this case, even if I am automatically trying to control my mental state, that doesn't mean that I can't spot it going on. And as well as spotting that control mechanism going on, as I become more sensitive and spend more time tuning into how I actually feel and taking an interest in it, as a result I become much more aware of my own inner states. And that's just another way of saying I'm actually developing a relationship with them. And no matter how tenuous or transient that relationship may be, once I start putting effort into it, or not straining effort, but keeping at it with a genuine interest there, the more the relationship will deepen. So it's a kind of a thing, it isn't lost. Gradually, and it is a gradual process, our relationship with how we really are deepens and becomes stronger. Which comes down to a practice that's often called self-observation. Self-observations can sound an awful clinical kind of a thing. Self-monitoring or something, but it's not clinical, or it shouldn't be clinical, but it's clinical. We've gone badly wrong. What it is, it's more like having a friend and being sensitive to how they are. So they might be pretending that they're okay, but we're sensitive and we can see things aren't quite right. And this doesn't mean that we're going to try and fix it or cheer them up or cheer ourselves up. It's simply the sensitivity element without the what do we do about it element. So, another way of putting that is to say what we're talking about here is equanimity. So, what we're doing there is that we're cultivating equanimity with regard to how we feel or what it feels like to be us or what our mental state is. Equanimity meaning it's okay if it's one way, and it's also if it's okay if it's the other way. So if I win, that's okay, and if I lose, that's also okay. So I'm equally interested no matter what happens, and so I'm being even-minded, which goes back to what I was saying a little while ago about experiencing life as a whole, whichever way it may be manifesting, which goes completely against the current, or completely against our normal way of doing things, because of course we're interested in some bits but we're really not interested in other bits. So instead of equanimity we've got attachment, and attachment is how we want to have the good bits and not the bad bits. And as I was saying, once we start doing that, we're playing a game. And if we're playing a game with reality, it isn't reality, it's just our edited version or a distorted version. So the only way to experience life as it actually is without turning it into a game is to have equanimity. So equanimity, we can see that equanimity is a slightly different way of talking about conscious suffering. Maybe it sounds more palatable because the word suffering isn't in it. But it does pretty much mean the same thing, because it's the art of staying open to stuff that we don't like. And finally, I can also connect that to what we started off talking about, which is negative capability a while back. Negative capability being this capacity that we have to let things be what they are, no matter how irritating or unsure they might be, without trying to press for some sort of conclusion, without trying to analyse or slap an evaluation on it or make it be one way or the other. So in other words, negative capability, the Buddhist virtue of equanimity, and conscious suffering all come down to the same thing. Okay, thanks for watching.